Hey people! In the last episode we talked about how to learn many songs in a short time, and we also made this roadmap for a fictional song, and I promised you that today we will be turning this into a proper drum chart, and that's what we're going to do. I think drum charts are so great because when push comes to shove you can just sight read and it will lead you through a song. You can give this to anyone and he or she could when time is short, just play the song. And that means that if you once write this chart, at any time you can play again with this band, can play this song. So in any band I ever played, I could immediately rejoin, help them out and play the songs I played years ago. If I have no time to prepare, I take the train to the rehearsal or to the gig even, and just read through the chart, listening to the song, and in the evening, without rehearsal, I could, with sight reading, play the song again. Also, writing the drum charts is so great because you have to concern yourself closely with the song, listen to it very closely, and write it all down, so it's an active engagement with the song, and this often leads to you memorizing the song just by writing it down. So I've often experienced this, that I write down a whole song and have the feeling I don't even need to practice or rehearse this song because it went through my mind once. And writing one drum chart takes me about 1 hour, so theoretically I could memorize 10 songs in a day by writing them on a chart, and after that I will never forget them because I got the drum chart. So now we will be turning this roadmap we made in the last episode into a drum chart, and I will tell you which methods we will be using and give you some tips on how to write your own drum charts. If you're not familiar with the different symbols and methods used in writing a drum chart, I made a video just on this topic. I will link it in the description below. You can watch it first and then come back to this video. You will be well prepared to follow everything I will be doing. The first thing we will be doing is looking at the roadmap which we made for the song. This tells us just how long every part is and just a few indications on what we are playing there. We immediately see that we have these two blocks, theme, verse and chorus, which repeats. Just the last two bars and the second chorus are different. So we make a repetition here and use the method of the two different endings. So we insert a bracket at the end for the first ending, and then we repeat and we make a second bracket. Also, we have the chorus repeating at the end without any changes, so we can use the method of Zenyo, which means we jump to another spot in the song, and we don't have to write down the whole part again. We just use the one we have already written, and then we go into the coda, which means the tail of the song, and this is an 8-bar phrase which repeats on cue, so we have the coda in the end with repetition signs, and then we just insert a description into the drum chart. So just as with the roadmap, we start by writing down the title and the most important notes for us. So this could mean which keyboard sound you use, or that the song is supposed to be played with the snares off, or that you use brushes, something like this. Then at first, of course, we have to write down the time signature, and we start with the pickup bar. The pickup bar is not bar number 1, but bar 0. And then we start with the guitar intro. We have this thick bar with a 4 on top. That means 4 bars rest. And then we start with the theme. Simple 8th note groove. We once notated, and then we can just use these similes, which have the great benefit that our eyes can follow the flow of the song and we don't have to count bars. And above the similes we can insert notes or kicks, just like here in bar number 5 we have this crash cymbal. Then we have the first verse. At the end we just write down fill, because this fill does not have to be written out, it's not specific, it's not very important, just write down fill. And then we go into the chorus. We have a 16th note groove. We once write it down, then we use the similes. And at the end, we have this repetition. Because, as we said, we have this block of 3 parts which repeat. And then we have the first bracket, jump to the beginning of this theme and play the whole thing through once again. So we don't have to write down this whole thing again. At the end, we jump right into bracket number 2, where we have 2 bars of rest. Then we have the break with crashes with a dot above them, and the dot means that it's staccato, meaning short. And then we have a signature fill, which is important. This has to be played just like this, so we notate it exactly how it's supposed to be. Then we go into the guitar solo. Again, the same groove like in the verse. Write it down, use the similes, and in bars number 6 and 7 we have these kicks. We have to accompany a solo instrument. This is very important, so we write them as a kicks above the similes, so we keep the groove going and just play these kicks on cymbals or on the right bell or something like this. And then we write down DS, meaning dal segno, al coda. We go to the segno, that's the chorus, and we play until we see this coda sign, and then we jump right into the closing section of the song, which will be repeated on cue, so the singer tells us when we shall stop. And I'm just missing 1 bar here, so I will write it below. This is the last bar, just a crash on the 1 with a fermata on the top. The fermata means that this note is not just a quarter note, but is supposed to be held a long time. So it's a classic rock ending with a crash cymbal roll, for example. So this chart is not perfect, but it's a great guideline. If you have never heard this song, you can just play along and it will sound pretty much like it's supposed to be. That's the great thing. Everybody who is able to read a chart, you can give this to. Everybody could play this now. Of course, he or she is still supposed to be listening to the song a few times, playing it a few times to get the feeling and get an idea what the song's supposed to sound like. But if push comes to shove, anybody could play the song using just this. Now I want to give you my biggest tips on how to write a drum chart so you will receive great results right away and have a clear, clean and comprehensible look of your drum charts right away. But keep in mind that writing a chart has to be practiced like anything else. I had to throw away a lot of paper before I learned how to write a drum chart in a proper way, but now I want to let you into my secrets, the insights I gained this way, and you will have a head start this way. The first tip is play the song a few times before you write it down. This sounds counterintuitive because we want to learn the song by writing it down. How can I play it? Well, just take a simple beat, a simple rhythm and play along to the song. The great benefit is that you will realize much more things than you would by just listening to it. You get a feel for the song and you already know which parts are hard to understand and which are easy, so you know which parts should be written down very carefully and which are very intuitive and don't need many indications. So you know a little bit about the song before you write it down and you know which parts to emphasize. Then you should write a roadmap like we did in the last episode, just so you see the skeleton of the song, the structure of the song, and then you can make notations in there like we did in the beginning on how to insert or where to insert repetitions or jump inside the song. So you see the structure at one glance and then you can transfer this into a proper chart. Also, you don't lose track of what you have to be writing down so you don't make mistakes and forget about some parts of the song. Then if you have written the roadmap, carefully count how many bars you have to write down. You will save a lot of space by inserting repetitions like we did. So count the bars you eventually have to write down so you can see if everything will fit on one page or if you have to spread it out over 2 pages. This goes hand in hand with my next tip. If it's not the exact length of a phrase, try not to write 7, 5 or 9 bars in one line if the song relies on a structure of 4 or 8 bars. Try to stick to one one formula. So 4 or 8 bars per line. And this will help you keep track of the structure of the song. Don't write 7 bars in one line and the last bar of the 8-bar phrase in the next line. If you write 4 or 8 bars in one line, it will look much cleaner. When in doubt, always write a little bit bigger. So 4 bars instead of 8 bars in one line, because when you write it, you have a distance that's not the same distance when you put the chart on the music stand. That's much further away. So write much bigger than would be intuitive in such a distance, so you can still read it when it's on your music stand. And keep in mind that the lighting at shows is often different and a little bit darker than at your desk. My next tip is, whenever there's a new groove, a new rhythm, a new thing to play, very clearly state this and write the whole groove, not just the skeleton and some indications, but just the main groove once. And after that you can always use the similes as long as this groove repeats as the foundation. So clearly state when there's a new part with a new groove, and then you just write similes or repetition signs. If you get the chance, talk to a person in charge and ask them if or which parts of the song should be played exactly like on the record and which are open for interpretation. Some band members rely on certain grooves or even fills, and they're supposed to be played exactly like on the record. And in some bands, the drum parts are just a guideline and the drummer is supposed to be improvising about this guideline. So check with the composers or band members on how to approach this. If that's not possible, it's up to you. You decide which parts, which fills and grooves are to be played exactly like on the record and which are open for interpretation and should be improvised. Usually fills are not to be played exactly like on the record, but sometimes they are, so it's up to you to decide. But when in doubt, I just write fill, or maybe the essence of the fill. I write just 16th note fill or staccato crash cymbals. That gives you the main feeling of what the fill intended to do, and you don't need to write it out completely. So those are my tips on how to achieve a cleaner look of your charts. Again, you have to practice for yourself and find a way for yourself how to do this best. I hope this video was helpful to you. Please let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next episode.